It is a rare opportunity to find games that offer truly unique experiences. Oreshika, Tainted Bloodlines offers just that with its take on mythological Japan of olden days. While my personal experiences in the genre of JRPGs does not span to many of the games that never see Western release, Oreshika's structure as a JRPG is one that defies typical genre expectations very effectively. Originally released in Japan for the PS Vita in mid-2014, Oreshika Tainted Bloodlines saw a Western release on digital platforms for half price, or $20 USD, in early 2015. Notably, the game was translated into English and other languages but not dubbed outside the original Japanese dub. Instead, the game is the latest example of publishers pushing more Vita games at lower localization budgets and cheaper prices like Freedom Wars and Tales of Heart are. Developed by Alpha Systems, Oreshika was released as a sequel to the Japanese exclusive PlayStation 1 game and marketed as the second game in the series for the Japanese release. For the sake of not butchering the long and very Japanese name of the series, I will refrain on attempting it. Run, charge in, attack, rinse, repeat. Oreshika, by definition, is a JRPG dungeon crawling game. You jumped into themed dungeons with their array of puzzles as enemies wander about their premises. Classes, elemental attacks, customizable party members, and more. It's a JRPG at its core, and the mechanics make it show. However, instead of committing to a typical grind-heavy battle system that asks for time commitment and patience in dungeon crawlers, the game ramps up the pace by introducing a time limit on your expeditions. Every second counts, every drop is important, every choice made will have lasting consequences. It is a refreshing take on dungeon crawling that changes the formula at its very core. Such an innovative yet familiar set of design principles emanates from most of the game. For example, loot. Now, loot is a backbone characteristic of RPGs in Japan and the West. And Oreshika takes us to the next level by creating a system where the skills, classes, weapons, armors, and more are scattered across the possessions of the demons littering the dungeons. Every battle starts with a roulette spin to determine which of these items you pick up, adding an extra layer of excitement and tension to each encounter. The turn-based combat also contributes. While the game is a turn-based JRPG, it adds some mechanics like joint attacks, secret arts, and rows. More often than not, this is where the innovation falls flat. No aspect serves to deter the experience, but some, like rows, feel pointless and, at best, only there to complicate the gameplay and give reason for the large variety of classes. The attack variations offer some interesting, but often unbalancing options. Luckily, in the case of joint attacks, they're more a variation of each attack, rather than an attack themselves. The battle system fares best in its influence from the timed dungeon crawling. Each match, at a slower pace than the time of the dungeon, still takes time off the clock. Unlike many JRPGs out there that ask for grinding and patience, Oreshika wants you on your toes with a constant purpose to every action in the grander scheme of things. Most prominently, the successful innovation spawns largely from the clan system. By way of the story, your family finds themselves in a struggle to survive, cursed with only 2 years to live and limited breeding options. No single character stays in your party indefinitely, as death reaches all eventually. Instead, breeding becomes the forefront of character customization, and the only real method to strengthen your party once your old members pass on. And for those of you wary about the word breeding coming up, don't worry. The game handles the entire situation extremely well, to the point where having children essentially becomes a business agreement with no pointless or pandering fan service. The important aspect of the system is that you are selectively breeding your clan members with gods and the occasional neighboring cursed clan member. Every member has an array of physical, mental, and spiritual stats with affinities towards elements. Gods have these affinities as well, so the need to solicit high-quality genetics from the gods is key to improving your clan and party's strength. The stats and the associated system in general isn't the most intuitive and offers the largest learning curve that the game has. So make sure you go to your helpful assistant Kochin's handbook of tutorials if you're ever unsure of what to do. Now the months go by in a different method of time management, where you must choose the best way to spend your clan members' limited lifespan. Only one key action can be done in a given month, so implementing an overall plan is key. Ultimately, Oreshika is a game about planning, and that is what makes it unique. The micromanaging system has a severe depth to it without requiring you to dive in so deep. If anything loses its lusters in the planning, it's the approachability. Learning curves are all over the place as the game mixes traditional JRPG mechanics with many new and unique ideas. This can serve to assist, but also confuse when the mechanics end up being only reminiscent of ones you've already learned. It's mythological Japan, and your clan has been blamed for a great tragedy. Mystical relics used as the pillars for festivals key to bringing powers to the gods are stolen under the nose of the empire. A shaman by the emperor's ear points his finger at you and your clan. Quickly, every member of your clan is put under the sword for execution. None survived, and the corpses of your clan were cursed. Some time has passed, and the gods have seen the events unfold. The head of the heavens sends her brother to offer the spirits of your clan a chance at revenge. Rituals are performed, and the remnants of your clan is scattered towards the wind. Cursed with 2 years of life and the ability to only have children with gods and other cursed clans, time is of the essence. You must start building a base for your strength, retrieve the stolen festival instruments, and unravel the mystery of the shaman who cursed you. Every generation works towards this goal little by little, moving over the dead bodies of generations past. If you jumped into this JRPG hoping for a deep and engrossing plotline, you might end up disappointed. However, if you came to the game to go on a journey with a cast of characters you feel a true connection to, then this is the sort of storytelling for you. Oreshika manages to create an atmosphere where the progress and passing of your clans creates a real emotions for each person and the clan overall. That constant narrative-based motivation to keep progressing is there at all times. Plot is delivered in intervals as you progress, and while this isn't necessarily the issue with the plot, it creates a structure that is the root of the main issue. Imagine a game where the main cast is never static. It's constantly changing and doesn't have dialogue. How could you tell a compelling story? How do you set up scenes to portray drama between characters when the characters involved could be anyone? The game's answer to this is create a drama between the cast members who are static and attempt to slowly replace the main conflict of revenge with a different driving force. The plot can lose focus, and that ultimately is its greatest weakness.
ひでえ話だよ。人間ってやつはどうしてこういつもいつも。ああ。
Oreshika is an absolutely beautiful game, and it's hard to express when you can't boot up the game on the Vita's OLED screen like I have, but the vibrant colors of the screen complement the spectacular art style without fail. If you've ever played the classic game Okami, you might be familiar with this sort of art style. It emulates the traditional Japanese ink paintings, with a large emphasis on distinct colors, strong strokes, and a stylization that is hard to miss. Battle is when this is most apparent, with attacks taking on beautifully rendered animations of fire, water, and the rest of the elements. It doesn't delve so much into this art style as Okami does with the stylization, but with some clear influence from anime art style to give a slightly more grounded take on the world. The melding of these two styles allow it to blend together into a breathtaking view that you get to experience across the years that the game takes place in. Musically, the game also harkens back to traditional styles of Japanese olden times. The soundtrack offers a versatile take on these styles that meld extremely well from situation to situation. Desperate battles really make the player feel the desperation. Festivals bloom into high energy and traditional songs. One of the biggest compliments you can give to a soundtrack is when it makes you want to listen to the song in your spare time. For me, that was very much the case, with a half a dozen tracks making their way into my regularly listened to music. If there was a notable flaw with the music, it'd likely be its lack of memorability. As great as some of the themes are, much of the soundtrack falls into the realm of being good and fitting instead of being exemplary. it can get to a point where the memorable main melody might be relied on a notch too much. All this said, the music is still wonderful and fits every moment to a T. Probably one of the more underrated categories for judging games, entertainment is a measure of how compelled the player is to continue the experience and how much they are enjoying it. Oreshika is an excellent example of game design working towards enabling enjoyment over other aspects. With the fast-paced planning and time-based gameplay, the game is not a great option if you want to just sit back and relax for a few hours. Instead, the game asks the players to spend their time planning and executing said plan. Battles and dungeon crawling come with a brisk step, and every encounter keeps a higher baseline attention and attention from the player that would normally be asked of them. Simply put, the game offers a high-energy turn-based JRPG, and that in itself allows the turn-based combat to be more exhilarating than you normally imagine it capable of. Outside of dungeons and the higher-energy adventures, every action matters. With every action taking up valuable time for your clan, every action and stratagem is important to take into consideration. For players who enjoy strategizing and simulation games, much of the enjoyment in Oreshika will appeal to you. There is a decent jump in the learning curve early on, but the game is also quite forgiving at those stages. If Oreshika falters anywhere, it's the transition between the two states of dungeon crawling and planning back at your clan's home. Each offers a different feel and approach to how to enjoy the game. While inherently connected, I often found myself with times where I was in the mood to partake in one but not the other. Often it becomes obvious which one you need for your plan, and it can be unfortunate when you stumble into that moment when you're not in the mood for the one you need. It's hard to gripe on the game for that too much though. It essentially boils down to both main aspects of the game being very fun in their own right, only in different ways. Should a third game in the series ever make its way to the store shelves, hopefully Alpha Systems is aware of this. Regardless, the game is a great enjoyment, and Oreshika is highly recommended to those who like strategy, heavier experiences.
おやおや、道理で重いと思ったぜ。待ってろ、今すぐ外してや。
手助け無用。
お見事。じゃ、あとは任せた。
Oreshika is a great game. Even as a player who prefers story-driven experiences, the plot manages to get out of the way for the storytelling aspects that shine through the gameplay. Planning your every move is fun and challenging with enough resources to overcome the early learning curves. Plot may often fall flat, but the developing clan offers enough narrative motivation to pull in gamers who come for the story. High-energy turn-based gameplay is a cornerstone to the innovative presence throughout the base mechanics of the game. When the package of new ideas comes together, even tried and true mechanics feel fresh. In the end, Oreshika does many things right to overcome its shortcomings. Innovative gameplay and the story-driving clan system are the forefront of this. In the end, I have to give this game a rating of top of the genre. It just does too many things right, and I highly recommend it to people who play JRPGs, RPGs, or simulation games out there who are willing to give it a shot and can play it. As for games similar to Oreshika, the only one that really comes to mind has to be Persona 4. Its golden version, as well as its predecessor Persona 3 and its variations, happen to have both a dungeon crawling and time management system. While Persona goes much more for the social simulation aspect with its time management, it is a combination of deciding how to spend your time and what would best allow you to go about bringing your party strength up. It also has aspects where you have to replace the main parts, as in your persona, that create your party's strength over time. So in the end, while they're still very different games, and I would not tell anyone that to expect them to be the same, there are some key cornerstone aspects to how each game is built that does create some similarities between the two.
行け。あとは頼んだよ、姉さん。